Today we are looking at the XYAB PSP 2000/3000 battery for $14.99 at a flea market, and it has a quick start guide on how to set it up in your PSP 2000 or 3000. It has 2400 milliamp hours, and we're going to open up this thing and put it in the PSP. And it feels very light. Looks like it might be a little bulge on the left side, but here are the specs on the back. And now let's get this bad boy in the back of the PSP. Make sure it's in flush and firm, and it should just make a little snap noise, and then you replace the cover back on top. This is an off-brand battery, and they are known to sometimes not work or make certain buttons not work or make it to where you cannot connect your device to a computer via the USB port because they are underpowered. But it seems that it is powered on. Skipping the date and time setup, the D-pad appears to work. Yep, smooth as butter. Now let's get the other buttons. X button works, or cross button. Again, D-pad's working. We're going to get the circle. Oh yeah, it says at 65%, it has 4 hours, 13 minutes left, battery is in use. I am very shocked. A lot of the off-brand batteries do not show up on that. It shows question marks or X's or an error. And it seems that everything's working fine so far. I am going to let the battery charge overnight to 100% because that is what is most important, to make sure it charges and powers on afterward. So I will be using this tomorrow. It is charged to 100%, and I'm going to update it to firmware 6.61 and see if the battery allows me to install the firmware as well. A lot of the old batteries that were off-brand from 15 years ago did not allow you to do certain functions on the PSP, such as updating the firmware, because the motherboard could not detect the battery, therefore it could not install the firmware. And newer batteries that are off-brand tend to bypass that and allow you to install it like this one. So, once this is installed, I will have my other legally purchased games added to test. Firmware is installed. Let's see how much of the battery is left. 100% at 7.5 hours roughly. Wow, so it barely used any battery power to install the firmware update from Sony. Now I'm testing to make sure that the USB function works, because in order to get my old backups, I will need the USB port to work. And it is activated. And voila, I am happy it shows up on my MacBook Pro 2012. All the folders intact. Let's see if I can open them up and see the yep, I can see the contents of the PSP. This is great. This means that I will be able to get my backups from my old PSP onto this one. I have had the PSP on for an hour and 11 minutes while I've been trying to set this stuff up. I want to see how the battery is doing after an hour and 11 minutes. And it says it's at 97% at 6.5 hours left on the battery. Wow. It's finally time to test out some games and see how the battery holds up while playing games. Let's try Brave Fencer Musashi, a classic forgotten game. Very rare, hard to find. This game, being a PS1 e-boot, does take quite a while to load up. We're going to go into the settings and make it full screen. There we go. Much better. It'll be easier to see on video if it takes up all the screen instead of a 4x3. Again, I will be trying to cut out some of the loading screens. And wow, okay. So far, all the buttons are working in the game too. And yep, square's working. The shoulder buttons are working. That's great. I am very, very pleased. The D-pad I'm able to run. And I'm scrolling through text with the cross button. Jumping, attacking. A little bit of slowdown, but that's natural. I mean, it is supposed to be played on a PlayStation 1, not a PSP. But hey, it is working, and I'm having no issues other than a tiny bit of slowdown. If that's your biggest issue, then this isn't for you. But hey, it's passable. I am extremely happy. I want to get a few more seconds of test before I say this battery's good for games or not. And yeah, everything's working. I'm able to shoot the enemies too. So that is a very, very good and decent battery because it hasn't shut off on me yet either. And I'm going on using it for about 2 hours now. The battery held its charge, it's cheap, it is competitive with other priced off brand batteries, and most importantly, this works. I would recommend it for a PSP 2000.